You actually talked about that in next episode.
Let me start that just section.
Yeah.
Just gonna do that. So Yay, you're here. Welcome to How to Be a Grown-Up with CK and GK. Let's get started. Okay, my fellow business running chaos goblins, gather round because today's episode is for anyone with ADHD who's ever looked at a 9 to 5 and said, hard pass. We're talking ADHD and entrepreneurship. Now, full disclosure, we recorded this as one mega episode, but truth be told, it ran so long that even our ADHD brains got distracted while we were listening to it. So we're splitting it into two. So this week, we're focusing on the superpowers, the weird and wonderful ways that ADHD brains thrive when they're running their own show. Next week, we'll get into the challenges because there are some / many. But today, we're celebrating why your chaotic, beautiful brain might actually be your secret business weapon. Let's get to it. Hi, friends. We're so glad you're here. Welcome to How to Be a Grown-Up. This is the how-to show with advice we learned the hard way. There's really no other way to explain this. I'm Caitlin. I like how I said before that, like I didn't know who I am. With me today, co-hosting for Jenny, is Ariella Monti, who is the amazing author of Roots in Ink, and she is the love child of a TED Talk and a disco ball.
I have no idea what that means, but I love it.
I think it works. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what it means either. Although with any Leslie Knope style compliment, it never makes sense, right?
No.
Like
they're always accurate, but
yeah,
but don't make sense, which is hilarious.
Yeah, it's like, you yak with the mind of a puma. I don't know. It's just weird stuff, and I love it. Anyway, today we are talking about ADHD and entrepreneurs and why we are so kick butt at being entrepreneurs and how to find systems that work for you, because it's really difficult to be an entrepreneur and accountable to only yourself as someone with ADHD.
Yes. So tough. It's so tough. When you don't have your own boss to tell you what to do.
Right. And you don't have hard deadlines with deliverables. Right. Like, it's rough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So I have in the script here some kind of witty intro that I can't think of right now. And
Perfect.
That has not changed. So we're just going to go right into it. And
I like it.
So I'm going to say that this information has come from a couple of different sources, most of them being Attitude magazine, which it's like ADD-itude.
Yeah.
It's great. So it's a really great source. Yeah, it's a great resource for people with ADHD, as well as just being ADHD myself. And I said to somebody yesterday that I think I've been a freelancer or working for myself in one way or another more than I have in my adult life. Like, I'm not counting like college, high school and everything. But in my post-college life, I think I have worked for myself longer than I have worked for someone else as like an employee.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, I just kind of thought about it yesterday. I was like, oh wow, look at that.
Yeah.
If you take
that's
out,
awesome. Good for you.
Sure. I mean, yeah.
All right, cool. Maybe not. Whatever. Doesn't have to be good. No problem.
No, I mean, that's a topic for another show, like the pros and cons of being your own small business. So for the sake of this conversation, we're going to lump entrepreneurship with just business ownership, freelancing, or any situation in which someone is working for themselves. Because whether it's true or not, the term entrepreneurship tends to imply somebody who runs a startup. Like when you think of an entrepreneur, like I usually think of some douchey tech bro who is like
Not all. I work for startups. Not all of them are like that, but I do know what you're talking about.
It's not. Right. There is like the word implies a stereotype that,
yes,
which
right.
is true or not. So we're going to talk about
all of that together. Yeah.
Yeah. Small businesses that are owned by people with ADHD.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Gotcha.
Regardless of their potential tech douchebaggery. So. And also regardless of their size, because, you could have, it could be a larger business, small business. You could be, for me, I do not have employees. I can barely pay myself a salary in most cases, so I have no employees.
I'm looking for sponsors for this show actively. So I'm hoping to, if you want to help do that, we're all ears, because right now I'm an entrepreneur who loses money on this every week. So I feel you. I feel you. Okay.
So there's been a few studies on ADHD and entrepreneurs, and actually one from Syracuse University found that leadership who have ADHD outperformed their peers. And this tends to be because people with ADHD have a specific collection of traits that are strengths when you own or are leading a business. Now, I'm going to say I am not a medical professional in any case. I have a master's degree in publishing. So I'm coming at this with looking for the information, passing it off to y'all, and take what you need, leave what you don't. And some of these strengths that we're going to talk about, there's going to be some that you're going to be like, really? But that's also a weakness. We're going to get to the weakness part, but let's first talk about the strengths.
Got it.
So the first one is risk-taking, which I know, like, when we think about, like, risk-taking, we think about the kids who run out into traffic. But when it comes to being a business owner or business leader, this impulsivity can help us make business decisions that someone else might find too risky because they're like too pragmatic and they kind of think about it a little bit too much. And when we make these riskier decisions with some intentionality behind them, then that risk could pay off.
Yeah.
Because we get a certain amount of dopamine from just like doing something a little bit crazy.
For sure.
But again, this is something that could work against us if it's not intentional. Problem solving. We love a puzzle. A physical puzzle, like, with pieces and stuff.
Yeah, we know. We've had these conversations about puzzles before. Like legitimate puzzling.
Right.
Yeah.
But we as ADHD people, we are drawn to fixing things, not just fixing like physical things, but like we see a problem, we want to fix it. If we see a gap, we want to fill it. We see a problematic man and we're like, I can fix him. But it's my romance author coming out. But ADHD people are good about thinking kind of outside the box, and the actual process of working out a problem is really exciting for us. And we get excited about figuring out ways to solve a problem.
There's also a little bit of this jack of all trades, master of none sort of vibe with ADHD people, where they tend to be able to not only think about the solution, but actually actively solve the problem because they go hyperfixate on how to solve it and then learn enough to do it. So like, this is why I broke code on a website the other day, because I was like, oh, I know how to fix this. I know what to do here. I'm the only one who knows how to go into the design manager and fix it all. And then I broke it. But I still maintain that I have done other things in that design manager before and made it possible. So, I mean, there is a little bit of that actual skill that goes into it too, because we do learn enough about how to solve the problem in addition to being able to think about what needs to happen next.
Exactly. And that is a good segue to the passion part of it, which is the hyper-focus part of it. So when we find something that triggers that excitement, we're going to go full force into it. So if we see a problem and we want to fix it, but we don't have the skills to fix it or the knowledge to fix it, like we're going to dive into it.
Oh yeah. Cue the hyperfixation right now.
Right. Exactly. And when we do things that we're interested in, it's going to, it's one of those things like, not that I believe this, you know, if you do what you love, like you'll never work a day in your life, which is like, it's garbage, but on some level for an ADHD person, it's true. You know, we are not going to go into business doing something that we don't enjoy, you know?
Yes, that's true.
We're not going to open up a business that we are not passionate about. Now, granted, that passion is not everything that you need for owning a business, but it is something that I think is a strength for us, that hyper focus, that drive to do the things that we're interested in, I think sustain us when things get a little bit rough.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Sort of going back to, it's related to the problem solving and the passion, but we have a drive to make a difference. So if we see how things can be improved, we want to like get in there and improve it. So it brings us a lot of excitement to make a difference in one way or another. You know, maybe it's a business, maybe it's a nonprofit, but that we get a lot of excitement and we get a lot of dopamine out of helping and making a difference.
There is a little bit of, I don't even want to say a little bit. One of the hallmark characteristics of ADHD that I'm learning about is this sense of fairness and justice that is very real for us. Like when things aren't fair externally, we take that very personally. And I think that kind of goes back to this urge to help people. So absolutely, you know, I see a lot of that in myself too. I'm like, well, if this isn't fair, what can I do to fix it? How can I help? And I think that that's where a lot of these ideas come from, is people with this sense of justice that we have, being inspired by whatever we feel around us is not okay.
Yeah.
And that's where
absolutely
this comes.
Totally. I absolutely agree with that. Another strength is enjoying variety. So being a business owner means that you're doing all the things, and that variety can help keep some ADHDers from getting bored. Though I'm going to push back on that a little bit, because we also need to do things that are boring as a business owner, and those boring things can be incredibly draining and leave us with, you know, little for the things that we do enjoy. So I think when it comes to enjoying variety and the idea of like multitasking and having your hand in several pots, I think that's going to be specific to like an individual person. Because I know when it comes to book publishing, I don't want to do sales and distribution. And if I had the money to outsource that, I absolutely would.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is like, this is when you see entrepreneurs start hiring people to do the things they don't want to do. For sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also we find a certain level of comfort in chaos. You know, we do thrive with a routine, but we also do seem to come alive in a crisis. Or even just when things are kind of going wrong, sort of all at the same time. And, you know, your first years of owning a business can be really, really unpredictable. So that ability to pivot and change and be flexible is really valuable when you're trying to get your business sort of off the ground.
Yeah, you just reminded me of what we talked about last week, which was the whole great in a crisis, overwhelmed by the details of the everyday, right?
Yeah.
Which is why we need someone to come in and do the distribution and sales and billing and crap like that we don't want to do, but can handle the startup life that is chaotic, right?
Yeah,
Super
definitely. So those are our strengths. And it would be very easy to just like focus on those things. But I think it's important that we validate the challenges that we have, because ADHD is considered a disability for a reason. And especially in the workplace, there's a lot about our ADHD that can be disabling. And that doesn't go away when we own our own business. We can manage them more appropriately when we have our own business, but they don't disappear. So we have to acknowledge the weaknesses and make accommodations for them.
So there you have it. ADHD entrepreneurs, the hyper-focus-fueled, idea-generating, wait, how is this a strength, risk-taking magic of running a business your way. But, and you knew there was a but, right? Next week, we're pulling back the curtain on the other side of entrepreneurship with ADHD. Think time blindness meets deadlines, rejection sensitivity versus making sales calls, and why just hire help is so much easier said than done when your brain overthinks everything. There's a lot of information that's going to be a ride, so hit follow to make sure you don't miss it. And if you've ever, cried into a spreadsheet, trust me, you'll feel seen with this episode. This has been How to Be a Grown-Up. Go forth and exploit your ADHD strengths this week. We'll handle the chaos together next time. Okay, grown-ups, imagine this. A museum basement, a forbidden diary, and magic that could get you killed. My brilliant bestie and guest co-host Ariella Monti's novel Roots in Ink is a captivating mix of historical fantasy and slow burn romance. Think like Outlander meets the Atlas Six, but with the banter that you've come to love from Ariella. When archivist Emma DeMarco uncovers a scribe's diaries exposing Belhaven's erased magical history, she teams up with Liam, a museum caretaker hiding his own dangerous gifts. But when his magic turns lethal, Emma has to choose: risk everything to save him, or let history repeat itself. This is perfect for fans of slow burn romance with stakes, hidden magic, and rebellion, and a diary that is literally to die for. Get 20% off of Roots in Ink using promo code CKandGK at ariellamonti.com. Again, that's all caps, CKandGK for 20% off at ariellamonti.com, and settle in for a bit because you'll be hooked. Get your copy today.
Hey friends, thanks for listening to the CK and GK podcast. Find us at CK and GK podcast on Instagram and Twitter, and rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, or anywhere else that you pod. See you next time.